The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will please retire to the gallery. Good morning, senators. Good morning. Good morning, guests. Good morning. The senators and all in attendance, if you are able, please rise. We will be led in prayer this morning by the Reverend Sam Fry of First Simple Church in Williamsburg. He is accompanied in the gallery today by his wife, Debbie. Following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Senate Page Ryan Oppert of Mattaponi. Mattaponi, please excuse me.
Let us pray. Our Father, this morning, Lord, I'm humbled to stand in this place where so many serve, looking to make a difference. Thank you, Lord, at how you've blessed our Commonwealth and how you entrust each leader here today with making wise decisions. Father, thank you for the sacrifices of those men and women who came before us and for those who continue to sacrifice to keep our country free. Lord, you tell us in your word in Romans 13 to let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there's no authority except that which God has established. So, Father, I thank you for placing these men and women in this chamber today and for entrusting them with such a great responsibility. And, Lord, you also remind us in James 4, you desire but do not have. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives. So, Father, this morning I pray for God-honoring motives today. Grant each leader here today with the wisdom, discernment, unity, and a collaborative spirit to lead according to your ways and direction. Father, honor them for their service, their spirit, their sacrifice, and their faithfulness. And Lord, we're reminded we live in an evil world and we need you now more than ever. I pray that whatever is said, whatever is done in this session today is for the good of our Commonwealth, but more importantly, that it's honoring to you. And we ask these things in Christ's name and for his sake. And all of God's people said, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Friday, January 20th, 2023.
The senator from Enrico, Senator Donovan, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 3.
Ayes 35, noes 3. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam Chairman, excuse me, I move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 5.
Ayes 33, noes 5. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, Madam President.
Now comes a time in the morning hour when we will discover who all of our wonderful guests in the gallery are. And what will happen is your senator, I will call on the senator, and if you will please rise at the time that he speaks about you, and then I will make my remarks, and we will hold our applause until after I am finished. And so with that, I do now call upon the senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteph.
Madam President, thank you. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, Senate, I'd like to introduce Pastor Sam Fry. Pastor Sam planted First Simple Church in Williamsburg in 2012 with a vision of taking a simple gospel message and the true church of Jesus Christ to the community. His passions include teaching Christ followers how to live out their faith, salvation, and testimony by sharing hope and biblical truth in the world. Living within their families, local church, and community. He conducts ongoing discipleship, growth opportunities, teaching men and women how to lead their families biblically and how to exercise their spiritual gifts within the community church. Serving various ministries for nearly 30 years, he holds a doctorate in pastoral ministries, master in expulsionary preaching, masters of interdisciplinary studies, and a bachelor's of science in business administration. As a former Marine, he understands how blessed we are as a country and how he should not squander opportunities to change this world for Jesus. As a local police officer and chaplain, he shares the burdens of Jesus Christ. He shares the burdens of men and women in blue and understands their sacrifices these families make on a daily basis to keep our neighborhood safe. As a biker enthusiast, he knows how people, groups need saving, the saving power of Jesus Christ, and he actively takes that message to the biker community. Pastor Sam believes strongly in missions and the community outreach and involvement. He's an active member of the local crisis negotiation team, crisis incident stress management team, and serves as a national board member of Law Enforcement United. He also serves on various district church leadership boards, including the District Board of Administration, District Board of Ministerial Developments, and church multiplication and discipleship. So, Madam President, that's my first introduction, which I'll follow with a few more. If you'd like to take it from here, or do you want me to do all of them?
No, sir, one at a time.
Okay.
Because indeed, this gentleman deserves recognition. Please stand again, and your beautiful wife. Thank you for coming, and thank you for that prayer. And I see that you're with the First Simple Church, that's church you planted, and indeed the gospel is quite simple. And 30 years, crisis management, everything else you've done, I don't know when you sleep. And that on top of that, Semper Fi, Marine. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Senator DeSteph.
Madam President, if I may, I've got a couple more introductions.
Senator may continue.
Dr. Debbie Fry who is equally as impressive as her wonderful husband, has helped plant First Simple Church in 2012 along with her husband. As a biblical counselor, her passion includes mentoring and teaching women to be enthusiasts about following Christ, impacting personal faith, families, and communities. She has a PhD in biblical counseling, Master's of Education in Exercise Science. She's also an NSCA certified strength and conditioning specialist. As a ministry director for First Simple Church, Debbie oversees the daily operations of the church, including managing the ministry areas and outreach efforts. She is active in the district level of the Wesleyan Church by supporting Discovery, the Joy of Women's Conference, and various functions for the district pastoral conference. She is a dedicated pastor's wife and devoted to supporting her husband, second only to her personal devotion to the Lord Jesus Christ. Her background as a health and wellness professional in hospital and retirement settings and as a physical education teacher drives her understanding of the important connection between spiritual and physical health. She is a nationally recognized speaker addressing gatherings at the Pentagon, local televisions, conferences, and workshops. She enjoys exercising her spiritual gifts by helping others achieve their better health through biblical teachings and practical advice. She serves in the community by supporting law enforcement, military families, and the local hunt club and motorcycle enthusiasts. She enjoys riding her Harley-Davidson and reaching women in the biking community for Christ.
Welcome. Thank you for coming again, and thank you for being in the education space. We do need our teachers, and thank you for being there. And thank you for everything else that you're doing in the community to serve us. And senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate. Again. Again, Senator DeSteff.
Madam President, I stand for at least one or two more introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, sorry.
The senator has the floor.
It is a privilege to introduce you and my Senate colleagues, Ms. Tina Mapes, as a guest in the gallery today. I have personally known Tina for almost 2 decades and have worked closely with her and in her former capacity as chairwoman of the Virginia Beach Party. She serves as the Virginia Beach Sheriff's Office for over 28 years and under our former Senate colleague, now Sheriff Ken Stolley. She attained the rank of captain. It should be noted that Tina was selected and successfully competed in the 265th session of the FBI National Academy, which is essentially the Harvard Business School of law enforcement. Only the top 1% of law enforcement leaders are chosen to attend. She's also earned her 2nd degree black belt in karate, continues to work on her 3rd degree black belt in karate. In 2021 and 22, Tina was the world champion in kata and fighting in her division at the United Fighting Arts Federation World Championship in Las Vegas. She also fought for the Norris Cup both years. She teaches karate 6 days a week to youth, and in her spare time volunteers as a member of Law Enforcement United, which has raised millions of dollars for families of officers that have died in the line of duty.
Welcome. Welcome, Captain. And I tell you, when we hear about who all of our citizens are in the Commonwealth, I think we are struck by their various accomplishments. And indeed, having been selected one of the very few for the FBI National Academy, it's very a great accomplishment. On top of that, your various degrees in karate. Senators, let us give her the warm welcome of her Senate.
Madam Chair, I have one last introduction for today.
The senator, again, has the floor.
On behalf of myself and the senator from, you're north? He's south, you're north. Northern Chesapeake. Today we have Crystal and Clay Duplica. Crystal and Clay you'll recognize from about 2 years ago where he testified on our hearing aid bill. They're back today to testify again for the senator from Northern Chesapeake and myself, and are in the gallery today to kind of watch how we get things done here. And you'll notice he's aged and grown quite a bit. With that, I hope we'd give them the warmest welcome of the Senate.
Well, you could give quite a few of us a civics lesson on how to address and be a part of your government. Thank you for doing this at such a young age and so being so bold and courageous to do it. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator McDougal, the gentleman from Hanover.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam President Ross, for the purposes of a few introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, in the gallery, we have some individuals there were a number of individuals from Hanover, but a few of them had to leave. We had with us some constituents, Angela and David and Donald Jackson. We also had with us earlier today our sheriff and Commonwealth's attorney, Trip Chalkley and David Hines. But currently we have in the gallery two members of our Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, Sherry Skipper and Mackenzie Babachenko, and if you could offer them the warm welcome of the Senate, and then I'll ask to introduce the members of the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for being a part of our great Commonwealth and for volunteering and doing the various things that you do in service to others. Senator, would you like to introduce the Hanover Sheriffs now? Or?
Yes, Madam President.
All right, sir, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, we have 4 members of the Sheriff's Department. Some of those members, and I won't point out which ones, I knew back in the days when I was prosecuting in Hanover, and they were much younger, not less attractive, but much younger. Madam President, we have in the gallery Bryant Mallory, Ricky Dandridge, Josh Dula, and Sandy Weigel. If you could give them the thanks for what they do to keep us safe each and every day.
And indeed, you do keep us safe every day, because when we hit the button calling 911, thank God that there is somebody on the other end answering, and we know that help is on the way. Thank you for doing that for us. And senators and ladies, please rise again so that we can give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Somerville, the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, joining us in the gallery today, we have 6 students from the 36th Senate District who are here visiting in the Polar Institute program that I run every year. This is a program where we bring students down to Richmond, show them how we make policy committees. They have meetings. I believe they met with you a few minutes ago. They're going to see their Attorney General shortly. They're taking a tour of the Capitol. They're going to be in several of your committees, and they're learning all about how we do business. And joining us today, we have Yensel Mendez, who's a senior at Bryant High School. We have Morel Brandt, who's also a senior at Bryant High School. We have Stephanie Levy, who's a senior at West Potomac High School, my alma mater. We have Delina Ogbe, who's a senior at Hayfield Secondary School. Owen Matthews, who's a senior at Hayfield Secondary School. And then we also have somebody named Mara, who shares my last name, who I'm not supposed to introduce according to our custom. And is also a former page here. And but I would just say that these students have an average GPA of about 3.7. They're taking a bunch of AP classes. They're international baccalaureate candidates. They're in dual enrollment classes. We have a varsity soccer player, a varsity lacrosse player, folks engaged in the debate club, Girls and Boy Scouts, orchestra, student government, National Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society, and ballet, and some very accomplished and future leaders of our Commonwealth. And Madam President, they're also accompanied by their chaperones, Jeannie McCreary, who teaches at Bryant High School, and also Benjamin Bernier, who's a history teacher at Hayfield Secondary School, who's here with them for the next 2 days. And I would hope you could give these future leaders of our Commonwealth the warm welcome of the Senate.
It is always heartwarming to see our young people here observing their government, the legislative branch, the Senate in particular, and for wanting to meet with your various leaders independently. That is quite exciting, I think, and quite forward-thinking of you to discover how your government truly works and how the people who, as we might say, run it, think. So thank you for doing that. This is what we're supposed to do in our constitutional republic. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the gentleman from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for 2 introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Today, Madam President, we're joined by representatives of Equality Virginia in support of LGBTQ plus Virginians and their allies from across Virginia in support of transgender and non-binary youth. Equality Virginia has been advocating for LGBTQ Virginians since its founding in 1989, and their research and educational activities have helped make Virginia a safer and more welcoming place for everyone. Among the members and supporters of EV in Capitol Square today are advocates, community members, school counselors, healthcare professionals, educators, and parents who believe that trans and non-binary youth deserve the dignity and safety to thrive no matter where they call home in Virginia. Today they spent time urging us, their lawmakers, to support youth. And Madam President, I ask that you extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you for coming, and thank you again also for observing your Senate in action, and thank you for being a part of the legislative process. And senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Senator Eben.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a second introduction to recognize the Virginia members of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, NORML. NORML has been working to advance evidence-based, pragmatic cannabis policies in Congress and state capitals across this country for over 52 years. Together with NORML, we made history in 2021 when Virginia became the first state in the South to legalize adult-use cannabis. As you all know, we still have plenty of work to do on cannabis this session. I would encourage you to learn more from NORML's decades of expertise should you have any questions about the issues. Madam President, I ask that you extend to Virginia NORML the warm welcome of the Virginia Senate.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. And thank you. You're part of the group. Yes, you can remain standing. And thank you for the advocacy work that you're doing. And indeed, we need to hear all voices as the sausage is made, as we say, which is, of course, slang for lawmaking. Thank you for being here. All right, senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for 3 introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we have the Virginia Coalition of Latino Organizations, or VACALAO. They have been advocating for the rights and well-being of Latinos in the immigrant community since 2001. On their 22nd year of visiting their representatives at the General Assembly, we're proud that once again, students from across the Commonwealth are here with us today to advocate for education, health, and issues of justice. The Virginia Coalition of Latino Organizations and all its partner organizations are committed to preparing the next generation of civic-minded constituents.
There you are. Thank you for coming. Good morning again to all of you, and again, to see all of your young faces so already involved in the legislative process in your government. It is so great to know that one day when I'm getting my Social Security, there you are, and we'll be here paying your taxes to support Social Security. But thank you for wanting to be involved. Keep it up. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. And Senator, if you'll suspend for a second. Sergeant at Arms.
Madam President, a message from the House.
Please receive it.
The delegate from Pennsylvania, Delegate Adams.
Thank you. Madam President, I have been directed by the Speaker of the House of Delegates to inform the Senate that the House has agreed to HJR 558 relating to judicial elections and certain elective officers and request the concurrence of the Senate.
I thank the delegate. We'll return again to Senator Boysko, the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we are joined by the Virginia chapter of the American College of Nurse Midwives. The ACNM is the professional association that represents certified nurse midwives and certified midwives in Virginia. The ACNM sets the standard for excellence in midwifery education and practices in Virginia. Their members are primary care providers for women throughout their lifespan with a special emphasis on pregnancy, childbirth, and gynecologic and reproductive health. They are here today to educate us on the profession of midwifery, advocate for the preservation of safe and accessible reproductive health care, and to support the investment in education and workforce for advanced practice nurses. And I ask that you give them a warm Senate welcome.
Thank you for being in the medical community and specifically in midwifery. In fact, so long ago, it was at that point of life and death when we lost so many mothers. But there were the midwives bringing along both mother and child. Thank you for being there, and I don't think we can thank you enough for all that you do. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Senator Boysko.
Madam President, today the members of the Virginia Reproductive Equity Alliance are joining us in the gallery. 13 Virginia-based organizations make up the alliance, and their mission is to build power across differences to secure reproductive health, rights, and justice, and advance racial equity for all people in Virginia. And I ask that you give them a warm Senate welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for being here and also for being a part of the legislative process so that we can hear all voices on any matter. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City. Chair recognizes Senator Hackworth, the gentleman from Tazewell.
Madam President, I'd like to request a leave of absence for my seatmate, the junior senator from Chesterfield, on account of pressing personal business.
Without objection, thank you, Senator. It will be so noted. Chair recognizes Senator McClellan, the senior senator from Richmond City.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for two introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We are joined in the gallery today by the family of my seatmate, the senator from northwestern Fairfax County. Her husband, Glenn Boysko, mother-in-law, Judy Boysko, and Judy's partner, or gentleman caller, as my seatmate calls him, Bill Alston. Judy and Bill are visiting from Ohio and are here for their first visit to Richmond and to the Capitol. And Glenn has taken some time from his punk rock band, Celebration Summer, and their cats to join us. I ask that you give them a warm Senate welcome.
We thank you for coming and for watching us, and we hope that we're better than the other state that you have come from, because we were first. But thank you very much for being here, and family, thank you for giving us your sister and daughter. Family, let us give her family the warm welcome of her Senate. Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. My second introduction today is Transit Advocacy Day, and we have transit providers from across the Commonwealth here in the Capitol to share their stories of how public transportation attracts the workforce of tomorrow, spurs economic development, and decreases roadway congestion while enhancing our environmental quality. I'm especially proud to introduce members of the Virginia Transit Association who are in the gallery, and they hope to see us all this evening at the Transportation Choices reception to enjoy some barbecue after our burgers today at Main Street Station.
Yes, please stand. And we do thank you for being part of our public transit in whatever form that is, because certainly, especially in some county areas, I can tell you that transit is sorely lacking, but very well needed. And thank you also for continuing in the urban environment. And I know that sometimes you don't get the accolades that you deserve, but in working with the public, that can be difficult. But you're still there, and we thank you for staying. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Rouse, the junior senator from Virginia Beach.
Thank you, Madam President. I request unanimous consent to introduce two bills relating to, one, a bill relating to Department of Behavioral Health and Development Services.
We'll take them up separately, sir.
The second bill. Oh, sorry.
We'll take them up separately. The question is, shall the Senate consent to introduce a bill as stated by the senator? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. Sir, the consent of the Senate is granted. Senator Rouse.
Thank you, Madam President. I request unanimous consent to introduce a bill relating to provide civil relief for citizens that have been furloughed or otherwise have not received wages or payments as a result of the partial closure of the federal government.
Again, the question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill as the senator has stated? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. Despite the coughs, the senator is granted his request.
Thank you, Madam President. And lastly, Madam President, please allow introduction.
The senator has the floor.
I rise today to introduce a group from the Hampton Roads Transit Association. Today we have in the gallery representing HRT, Norfolk Councilwoman Andrea McClellan, from Newport News, the Commissioner August Bullock, and from Virginia Beach, Councilwoman Dr. Amelia Ross Hammond, who's current chair of HRT.
Welcome to you both, well, to all three of you. Thank you again for coming, and thank you for what you do for the people of Hampton Roads. And senators, let us again give them the warm welcome of their Senate. Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senior senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a request of leave of absence.
The senator may continue.
I would like to request a leave of absence for my seatmate, the senator from Loudoun, who is away on account of pressing personal business.
Thank you, Senator. The journal will be so noted. Chair now recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended and the House Joint Resolution number 558 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and House Joint Resolution number 558 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair again recognizes Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The resolution is agreed to. Chair now directs the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, to inform the House of Delegates of the action of the Senate. The Senate will be at ease temporarily until the return of the senator from Roanoke City. While we are awaiting the senator still for his return, we recognize Senator Suderline, the gentleman from Roanoke County.
President, I'd like to make an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Yes, Madam President, I was surprised to see some friends in the gallery. The friends are the Phillips family. They farm in the Radford section of Montgomery County, and they're here advocating on a series of agriculture issues, especially those related to our dairy industry. Their son, when I asked him for his views on things, stayed on message and was telling me how important it is that we allow for whole milk and good chocolate milk to be served in our public schools. So I would request that we give the warm welcome of the Senate to the Phillips family.
Phillips family, thank you for coming, and we thank you for working in the industry that is our #1 industry in Virginia. And we now know that, of course, that milk doesn't come from the supermarket. It is because of the efforts of your family and others. And so, Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. And we will again be temporarily at ease. The Senate will come to order, the senator having returned. Now then, the time for the joint order for certain judicial elections has arrived, and the Senate on its part is ready to proceed with the execution of House Joint Resolution number 558. Nominations are now in order for a Justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia. The senators will please take their seats. Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and the Senate Joint Resolution 93 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and the Senate Resolution number 93 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair again recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Nominations are now in order for the judges of the Court of Appeals of Virginia. Chair recognizes again Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 94 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 94 be taken up for immediate consideration. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Senator Edwards will suspend momentarily. Sergeant at Arms.
Madam President, a message from the House.
Please receive it.
The delegate from Pennsylvania, Delegate Adams.
Madam President, I've been directed by the Speaker of the House of Delegates to inform the Senate that the House has made certain nominations pursuant to HJR 558 and requests the concurrence of the Senate.
I thank the senator. Chair recognizes Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 95 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 95 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Senator Edwards.
President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Nominations are now in order for judges of the respective general district courts. Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 96 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 96 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The resolution is agreed to. Nominations are now in order for judges of the respective juvenile and domestic relations district court. A little bit of a tongue tie there. Chair recognizes Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 97 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 97 be taken up for immediate consideration. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair recognizes Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Nominations are now in order for members of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission. Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 98 be taken up for immediate consideration.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 98 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Chair now directs the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards, to inform the House of Delegates of the nominations that have been made by the Senate. The Senate will stand at ease until the gentleman returns. The gentleman from Roanoke City having returned, pursuant to the joint order, it is now in order that the rolls be called. All in favor of the nominee of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 93 to be a Justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 94 to be judges of the Court of Appeals of Virginia will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 95 to be judges of the respective circuit courts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 96 to be judges of the respective general district courts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, no 0.
Ayes 37, no 0. Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke County City. He's standing. Chair recognizes Senator Suderline. Okay. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 97 to be judges of the respective juvenile and domestic relations district courts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 98 to be members of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The chair appoints Senators Sorovell, McClellan, and Peake, the committee on the part of the Senate to count and report the vote of each House in each case. The Senate will stand at ease until the committee returns. Now then, the joint order under House Joint Resolution number 558 will be resumed. The clerk will read the report of the committee to count the vote.
The committee has reported as follows. Number of votes necessary to elect. In the House of Delegates, 51. In the Senate, 21.
Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, gentleman from Roanoke City. The question is, shall the reading of the report be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The reading of the report is waived. Now then, those named in the report as having received the vote of a majority of the members elected to each House of the General Assembly are declared duly elected as a Justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia, as judges of the Court of Appeals of Virginia, as judges of the respective circuit courts, general district courts, and juvenile and domestic relations district courts, and as members of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission for the terms that have been set forth. Is there any other business for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Today, Monday, January 23rd, 2023. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on third reading.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that the Senate bills on third reading on the uncontested calendar, that's just pages 1 through 3, Senate Bill 867 through 1150, be placed on their final passage in a block. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 3, Senate Bill 867 through Senate Bill 1150, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill to be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will now read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 867, Senate Bill 1053, Senate Bill 1059, Senate Bill 1065, Senate Bill 1068, Senate Bill 1150.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 888, a bill relating to consecutive terms of imprisonment.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Madam President, I rise to speak to SB 888.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Madam President, SB 888 would allow judges to decide whether or not a mandatory minimum sentence would be served concurrently or consecutively to one another. I want the body to understand we are not debating whether mandatory minimum sentences are good or bad, should be erased or should continue, but rather, does the judge have discretion when imposing a mandatory minimum to do it concurrent with the other sentence? Towards that end, I'd share a few facts to the body. As you all know, we take great pains in the General Assembly to select our judges. We want those judges to exercise discretion, and when we appoint them like we just did, or we reappoint them like we just did, we consider that. And when they do that, we want them to use their own knowledge. We want them to use their experience, their background, sentencing guidelines, and they do that. So when you have a mandatory minimum sentence, that takes away that judge's discretion, and it limits them from doing what they might want to do. We have heard many stories where a judge says to a defendant, I don't want to give you 5 consecutive sentences, but I must, and I'm now imposing that. There are many people in this body that will debate whether or not we should have a mandatory minimum sentence. But almost both sides of the aisle recognize that judicial discretion is there, it's important, and it needs to be utilized. So in order to have proportional punishment, in order to exercise due process, Madam President, I'm asking that the body vote to support SB 888, which, again, allows a judge to use his or her discretion. They may decide, you know what, a consecutive mandatory minimum is in order. Or they may decide it is not. I'll give them 5 sentences, but I'll run them concurrent. With that, Madam President, there may be 1 or 2 questions.
Chair recognizes Senator Obenshain, gentleman from Rockingham County.
Madam President, I rise to speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of the Senate, I appreciate my friend from City of Richmond's advocacy, and I understand the reasons for introducing this bill. I would respectfully take issue with the characterization of this. Last year, we dealt with legislation that would have abolished all mandatory minimum sentences. And my recollection, I stand to be corrected, but my recollection is that we defeated that in here, in this body, and decided that it was improvident to do that in such a sweeping fashion. Now, my friend from Richmond and I were able to cobble together at least a tentative agreement that some mandatory minimum sentences probably should be repealed, but not all of them. I would respectfully submit that this is a repeal of mandatory minimum sentences in many respects. My friend from Richmond said that that judges need to have discretion. I would agree with that. However, we have decided that in many instances, that discretion needs to be tempered by our view as to the seriousness or nature of the crimes. We have determined that there are certain minimums that we ought to be adopting. And if you look through this bill, these are not all like life sentences or 10-year or 40-year sentences. Indeed, the very first one on page 1 of this bill is the mandatory minimum of 6 months for repeat violations of domestic violence protective orders. We adopted that for a very important reason. Because of the seriousness of the problem and the need to provide protection to children and families who are victims of violence at the hands of serial violators of domestic violence protective orders. And then you look again and go on through this, and use of firearms in the commission of a felony. You know what? I just saw legislation coming through courts this morning dealing with that, and I don't know that there is a great deal of debate about whether we ought to repeal essentially the 5-year mandatory minimum for the use of and display of a firearm in the commission of a felony. And that is what this will effectively do. If these sentences do not run consecutively, they are not served. Okay, got that? If they are not run consecutively, that mandatory minimum does not get imposed. And if you look through this, these are some very serious offenses that warranted considerable debate. 18.2-67.1, forcible sodomy, not less than 5 years. Should we really relieve that defendant, that convict, of the mandatory minimum in that instance? 18.2-67.2, I won't even read the title of that. You can thank me, Madam Clerk. And so on and so forth. I would respectfully submit that this is a repeal of mandatory minimum sentences, no matter how it is characterized. It is a novel approach, and I give my friend from Richmond credit for coming back with a different approach for repealing mandatory minimums, but I would respectfully submit that this is not a path down which this body should go. Yes.
1 second, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator Edwards, the gentleman from Roanoke City.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
Yes, sir. Gentleman may continue.
This is not a direct repeal of all mandatory minimum, but what it is, giving some discretion to trial judges. And we have sentencing guidelines, which I strongly support, and I happen to be on a sentencing commission also. And the way it works is the guidelines take the data from what judges are doing and to come up with the guidelines. And the judges typically 80-85% of the time follow the guidelines. And we grade judges when they come up for reappointment as to how well they follow the guidelines. They have discretion to go above or below. And the judge has a better feel for a case that he's tried as to whether a person should follow the guidelines or go above or below the guidelines. And I think this bill makes all the sense in the world. It makes no sense at all to have the guidelines and then have mandatory minimum as we have in too many cases here. And so for that reason, I think I strongly support the bill.
Chair again recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the gentleman from Rockingham yield for a question?
Will the gentleman from Rockingham County yield for a question?
I yield.
The gentleman yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The gentleman told the body, and particularly on both sides, that, quote, this is a repeal of mandatory minimum sentences in many respects, and then went on to say that mandatory minimum does not get imposed. Would the senator not agree that mandatory minimum sentences still get imposed? It's just up to the judge whether to run it consecutive or concurrent. Would the gentleman not agree that my interpretation is 100% accurate?
Senator Obenshain has the floor.
Madam President, thank you, and I thank my friend from the city of Richmond. What I said was that if they do not run consecutively, they are not served. And I would point out that, these mandatory minimums include a mandatory minimum of 5 years for possession of a gun on school property. If somebody's charged with trespassing, do we really want to remove that mandatory minimum? from possession of a firearm on school property? I would submit no. The answer is no.
Would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will the senator yield?
I do.
Senator Morrissey has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the gentleman not agree that it is the practice of judges today, and has been for almost the last 150 years, to impose sentences, some that they run consecutive and some that they run concurrent? They just decide what is best. Would the gentleman not agree that that's the practice today?
Senator Obenchain.
Madam President, I would agree that in many instances that is the case. However, these are situations in which I would submit that we have made a determination that they should be served consecutively, and that it was a deliberative process in which we have gone through each of these felony violations and other violations and have determined that because of the nature of the crime and the potential that any associated crimes may carry a very small penalty, that it is important for us to run these sentences consecutively in order to carry out the intentions of the General Assembly.
Senator Morrissey.
And would the gentleman yield for one final question?
Final question, Senator.
I yield.
Senator yields. Senator Morrissey has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the gentleman not agree that the imposition of consecutive mandatory sentences, mandatory minimum sentences, runs the risk of both disproportionate punishment between two different defendants, as well as chills their right to due process, that is, pick a jury trial or a bench trial, knowing that the judge has no choice but to impose a consecutive mandatory minimum sentence?
Madam President, I would submit that if the gentleman is concerned about different defendants receiving different kinds of treatment in different parts of the state or with different judges, that is exactly what the passage of this legislation is guaranteed to produce. You are going to grant discretion to some judges or grant discretion to all judges. Some are going to accept the invitation to impose consecutive sentences, or concurrent sentences, and others are going to determine that the nature of these crimes is so serious that we're going to run them consecutively. And, I was born at night, but not last night, and I know that in a year or 2 years, we're going to be back here facing an argument in which we're hearing that there's no uniformity in the way that people are treated across the state, and it's important for us to repeal all mandatory minimum sentences in order to treat people the same across the Commonwealth of Virginia. We adopted these mandatory minimums and the requirement that they run consecutively for precisely that reason.
I thank the Senator.
The question is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 16.
Ayes 22, no 16. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 986, a bill relating to corporations, filing and meeting requirements.
Chair recognizes Senator Peake, the gentleman from Lynchburg.
Yes, Madam President, I move that the bill pass and speak into the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Yes, these are technical amendments to the corporation charters brought by Virginia Bar Association's Business Law Section recommendations. This bill includes technical amendments to address two problems identified by the Virginia Bar Association. The first is that a previous amendment to the Virginia Stock Corporation Act may have inadvertently cast doubt on the validity of corporate charter amendments that incorporate external documents. And the second is the need to modernize notifying stockholders of the shareholder list, and that changed the notification limits from 2 days to 5 days. I ask that we pass the bill.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1112, a bill relating to health insurance coverage for prescription contraceptives.
Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senior senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I request that this bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 1112 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 854, relating to campaign advertisements, independent expenditures, electioneering communications, disclaimer requirements.
Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the gentlelady from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that this bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. This bill does a couple of things. It expands the reporting requirements for independent organizations, so organizations who are acting without any coordination with campaigns. If, in fact, they participate in electioneering communication, which is defined as advertisements in traditional TV mediums, print, and social media. If they participate in those kinds of communications 60 days before an election or 30 days before a primary, they need to make a report to the Board of Elections, and they need to report their top 3 donors. And I would submit that the value of this bill is to ensure that our voters know who is trying to influence our elections, who would benefit or who would be disadvantaged by a particular referendum question or by a position that a candidate may have. I think this is a significant step forward in public disclosure and transparency. Having said that, I again renew my motion that the bill pass.
Chair recognizes Senator Vogel, the gentlelady from Fauquier.
Madam President, speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the patron's motive here in terms of transparency, but I would just like to offer the members an alternative view on this legislation. We had this bill before us before, and it didn't pass. And I would just remind all of you that where I believe the value of additional disclosure lies is when there isn't an underlying disclosure. And in this case, independent expenditures, IEs, are disclosed. The donors to those are disclosed, and you can go and you can actually see who contributes. The critical component here, and what the senator is doing, is requiring that the top 3 donors to an IE appear actually in the ad. And I think that that's a distinction that's worth noting for all of you. And that is, ads are expensive. They are short. The space is short and narrow. And I think that there is an element, in addition to the regular disclaimer, that dilutes your ad when you have to put the names of individuals at the bottom of that ad. I also think that when donors make a contribution to an IE, they anticipate that they're going to be disclosed in the normal way as a long list of donors. But I also think that it isn't the case that every donor wishes to be their own name on every ad. I think that they gave to the independent expenditure group because they supported the speech, they supported the mission, and they wanted to contribute to the IE. But did they actually want their name on every ad? And is it fair to the the top three, what if you're the fourth? What if you call the IE, and I promise you, as a practitioner, this will happen. Someone will call the group and say, make sure I'm the fourth person. I don't want to be the third person. It's a violation of my privacy. I'm not interested in the harassment. I'm not interested in people seeing this all over social media and then targeting me because my name is all over these ads. That's very different than just going and looking at the disclosures. And I will tell you that people who pay a lot of money for those IE ads aren't interested in having all that space taken up by multiple names. The other piece that's in this legislation is that if there are multiple people who happen to have given the exact same amount, then additional people must also appear on that ad. And so now you might not have 3 long names on the ad, you might have 4 or 5 names. Or think about it this way. What if your name appears on the bottom of that ad, but you're actually not that person that gave to that independent expenditure unit? So I just want you to appreciate that there are unintended consequences for donors who just simply wish to contribute to an independent expenditure unit. At some point in your political life, you may be part of an IE. You may be supporting an outside group that cares about a candidate or an issue that you care about. And these will be real issues for you. And I just want to take apart some of those unintended consequences, some of those other fairness issues, and also consider when you run an ad and you have to think about how few seconds you have and how much space you have allotted. Do you want a bunch of names there? And so anyway, think about your donors when you consider this bill. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Senator Favola has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. If no other senators wish to speak, I'd like to conclude.
The senator may say on.
Okay, thank you. I will just say this bill did pass the Senate last year. It did not pass the House. And to the issues that the senator from Fauquier raised, I believe that they're all related to sort of an implementation framework that can be addressed. If individuals feel strongly about an issue or a candidate and they choose to give money, I would think they're doing it because they care. And having their name disclosed, if they happen to be one of the top 3 donors, should not cause anybody anxiety. I think the greater good far outweighs whatever minor implementation issue may be associated with this bill. Again, it's important that we know who is attempting to influence elections in the Commonwealth, whether it's an election about a candidate or whether it's a referendum question. This adds key information on what exactly is at stake. So having made my best argument, Madam President, I again renew my motion that this bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, nays, no 17.
Ayes 21, no 17. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1287.
Madam President.
Gentleman from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed SB 888, I would ask that we reconsider that vote. I'm just getting a head start.
The question is, shall the vote by which 888, Senate Bill 888 pass be reconsidered? Those in favor of reconsideration will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The bill is before us, being reconsidered. Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. For the reasons I previously stated, I'd ask that the body pass Senate Bill 888.
We thank the senator for his brevity. The question is, shall Senate Bill 888 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 17.
Ayes 21, noes 17. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1287, a bill relating to additional local and sales use tax to support schools, Albemarle County, and City of Charlottesville.
Chair recognizes Senator Deeds, the gentleman from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass. I'd like to speak to that.
The senator has the floor.
This bill and the following bill both relate to the school funding or school construction funding problem. This bill simply adds Albemarle County and Charlottesville to the laundry list of localities in the state that can hold a referendum, and if the referendum is positive, add a penny to their sales tax devoted to school construction. Again, I ask you to pass the bill.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 1287 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 27, noes 10.
Ayes 27, noes 10. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 1408, a bill relating to additional local sales and use tax to support schools referendum.
Chair recognizes Senator McClellan, the senior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Bill 1408, if it passes, you will never have to vote on another bill to allow a locality to add a penny to their sales tax for school construction, because this will grant that authority to all localities and not just the 9 that currently have it. This is a recommendation of the Commission on School Construction and Modernization, which found that in Virginia, over 50% of our schools are over 100 years old, and the total cost to replace those is $25 billion. Which our localities just can't do on their own without additional tools. And while we made significant progress with state funding, I think everyone agrees that local school construction is primarily a local function, and yet we need to give them more tools in their toolbox beyond just real estate taxes. And with that, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 10.
Ayes 26, noes 10. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Chair calls on senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 5 through 13, that's Senate Bill 1055 through Senate Bill 1418, be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 5 through 13, Senate Bill 1055 through Senate Bill 1418, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1055, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. Senate Bill 1056, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources, and there is a floor amendment.
Yes, Madam President.
Chair calls on Senator Peake, the gentleman from Lynchburg.
Yes, Madam President, I would move the floor amendment. Waive the reading of the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the reading of the amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading is waived. Senator Peake.
Madam President, we just had a technical amendment. Instead of reading 43A9, it should read 43A8, which is a tax map reference to the property. And I ask that we approve the amendment.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 821, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 891, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 948, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator Suderline, the gentleman from Roanoke County.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that the Senate agree to the amendments from the Committee on Education and Health.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 975, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment.
Chair calls again on Senator Peake, the gentleman from Lynchburg.
Madam President, I move the committee amendment.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 1016, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1024, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 1042, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1044, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1060, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology. Senate Bill 1073, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Hackworth, gentleman from Tazewell.
Madam President, I move the substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1138, Senate Bill 1138, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1146, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1147, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, the gentleman from northwestern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1155, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Mason, the gentleman from Williamsburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1198, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1253, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1344, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Chair recognizes Senator Barker, gentleman from southern Fairfax County.
Yes, Madam President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 1373, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 1418, reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
The question now is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading.
Regular calendar Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 870, a bill relating to Virginia's Small Estate Act, funeral expenses and disposition. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with the substitute.
Chair calls on Senator Cosgrove, the senior senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move adoption of the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam President. Now I move that the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 929, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary.
Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senior senator from Chesterfield.
I move that SB 929 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 929 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1005, a bill relating to practice of physical therapy, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Chair recognizes again Senator Hashmi.
I move the adoption of the committee amendments.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator Hashmi.
I move that the bill SB 1005 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1017, a bill relating to time zone permanent daylight saving time in Virginia, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Chair recognizes Senator Stewart, the gentleman from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1041, a bill relating to division superintendents, certain localities, qualifications, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the committee amendment be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to. Senator McPike.
Move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1045, a bill relating to school board school building maintenance reserves, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the amendments be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to. Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third read.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1046, a bill relating to definition of law enforcement officer, fire marshal with police powers, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Chair again recognizes Senator McPike, the gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third read.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1089, a bill relating to writs of eviction returns to issuing clerk. Reported from the Committee on the Judiciary.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben, the gentleman from Alexandria.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1096, a bill relating to marriage lawful regardless of sex of parties. Reported with the Committee on the Judiciary with an amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator Eben.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be accepted? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is accepted. Senator Eben.
I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third constitutional reading.
Senate Bill 1307, a bill relating to University of Virginia Board of Visitors membership. Reported for the Committee on Education and Health.
Chair recognizes Senator Dees, the gentleman from Charlottesville.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1330, a bill relating to the Virginia Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, landlord remedies non-compliance with rental agreement. Reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology.
Chair recognizes Senator McClellan, the senior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Chair calls on Senator Barker, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion that on page 19, Senate Bill 1057 be re-referred to the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Page 19. Senate Bill 1057. Senator, what we're going to do is put them in the block, and then we'll come back to that motion if that's all right. All right.
That's fine.
Chair calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, excuse me, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, it's pages 17 through 23, Senate Bill 868 through 1456, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 17 through 23, Senate bills 868 through Senate bills 1456 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Right.
I now move that those bills, Madam President, go by for the day.
We've got the motion, sir, so let me recognize Senator Barker, again, the gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam President. On page 19, Senate Bill 1057, I make a motion that be re-referred to the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The question is, we are removing the bill out of the block and re-referred to the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. All in favor of that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is out of the block and re-referred to the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Sorovell.
Thank you, Madam President. Likewise, I would ask that on page 23 of the calendar, Senate Bill 1456 be removed from the block and re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary. I've discussed it with the patron. She's aware of it.
All right, Senator, let us deal with the motion before us, and then we'll come back to it. I'm sorry, you said Senate Bill
1456.
14, I'm sorry, I hadn't read. The question is, shall Senate Bill 1456 come out of the block and be re-referred to the Committee on the Judiciary? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is re-referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. All right. Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I now move that what's left of the block now go by for the day.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading, except for Senate Bills 1057 and Senate Bill 1456, which are out of the block and re-referred, be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Regular calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on third reading. Senate Joint Resolution 226, proposing an amendment to Section 9 of Article 7 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to local government, sale of property, authority to grant perpetual easements to units of government.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the gentlelady from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that Senate Joint Resolution 226 pass, and speaking to that.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the first reference to a change to the Constitution, and the Virginia Constitution, Article 7, Section 9, currently restricts the grant of easements and other rights to use publicly owned land to not more than 40 years, with the exception of air rights, which may be granted for 60 years. This same restriction is found in Section 15.2-2100B of the Code of Virginia. The origin of this restriction came about in the late 19th century when nearly all utilities were privately owned, and it was intended to stop private individuals and companies from acquiring permanent rights over public property. Today, some utilities are governmentally owned, such as the Newport News Waterworks. However, in order to get a permanent easement, organizations such as the Hampton Road Sanitation District and Newport News Waterworks have had to resort to what they call friendly condemnation litigation. They can condemn a permanent easement from the city, but the city cannot deed it to them. So the city of Newport News has no objection to granting permanent easements to the Commonwealth for environmental and historic preservations or to governmentally owned utilities. This proposed amendment to Article 7, Section 9 would allow localities to do both. So with that, Madam, with that explanation, I move that the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? Those in favor of agreeing to the resolution will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 15.
Ayes 22, noes 15. The resolution passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate Joint Resolutions on first reading.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate joint resolutions on first reading on the uncontested regular calendar, it's pages 24 and 25, SJR 230 through SJR 229, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 24 through 25, Senate Joint Resolutions 2230 through Senate Joint Resolution 229, be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, no 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The reading of the titles is waived. Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that those Senate joint resolutions go by for the day.
The question is, shall the Senate joint resolutions on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions will go by for the day. Chair calls on Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I'd inquire the clerk, does that complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Is there any other business? Chair recognizes Senator Favola, the gentlelady from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would say that yesterday would have marked the 50th anniversary of the landmark decision Roe v. Wade. Regrettably, the Supreme Court judges who are now on the bench, who claimed they would honor legal precedent, overturned the protected right to privacy and left women and healthcare providers subject to the whims of state lawmakers. The government is now involved in the most important decision a woman can make, a decision about her health, the health of her family, and her prospects for a safe and secure future. I ask my colleagues, is this limited government? I think not. Ronald Reagan rallied the Republican Party around the mantra that, quote, government is not the solution, government is the problem. I think this is one of the times I actually agree with that statement. What has happened? As a woman, a mother, I feel like my health care and well-being simply do not matter, but rather they're being played with as a political football. Government interference in abortion decisions is misplaced, it's harmful, and in some cases, deadly. Governor Youngkin's 15-week abortion ban creates almost a total ban on abortion care, with exceptions for rape, incest, and when a physician determines that continuing the pregnancy, quote, will result in the death of the woman or substantially and irreversibly impair one or more of the woman's major bodily functions, not including psychological or emotional conditions. And by the way, providers are subject to criminal charges. If this were to pass in Virginia, a woman could be subject to lifelong impairments. Think about that. A physician nervous about prosecution could conveniently view as not substantial a long-term impairment. But that woman's quality of life would be forever altered. This really is outrageous. It's an outrageous consequence. It's a consequence none of us should accept. I understand that opponents to abortion believe they are on the moral high ground. I get that argument. They believe that their values and morals are superior to those who disagree with them. I submit this is very dangerous. It has led to targeted violence, outright warfare, and in many respects, the collapse of civil rights. I have had friends and family members who have had abortions. I can tell you that these decisions are complicated, they are not taken lightly, and in each case, the woman agonized in great agony over that decision. But let's be clear. We are a country of diverse religious beliefs, a country that has always been a beacon for religious freedom. Those who demonize women for seeking abortion care as being immoral are imposing one's personal religious beliefs on everybody else. Just to add some facts in here, according to the Pew Research, an overwhelmingly share of religiously affiliated adults and unaffiliated adults believe abortion should be legal. Protestants are divided in their views. 48% say it should be legal in all or most cases, while 50% say it should be illegal in all or most cases. The majority of black Protestants, 71%, and white non-evangelical Protestants, 61%, take the position that abortion should be legal in all or most cases, while 3/4 of white evangelicals say it should be illegal in almost all cases. I state this to just show you the diversity of views by people who consider themselves to be religious individuals. With the exception of white evangelicals, religiously affiliated Americans seem to understand better than state lawmakers in many cases that abortion decisions are complicated. Even with this backdrop, the post-Roe v. Wade world has resulted in 13 states passing near total abortion bans and 13 other states with expanded restrictions. Some 22 million women are now denied access to this important health care service because the government made that decision for them without any knowledge of their personal situation or their health status. I can assure you I will do everything in my power to protect the women at Virginia, to protect our providers, and to continue to allow women in the Commonwealth to make their own reproductive health care decisions without the interference of government. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Locke, the gentlelady from Hampton.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, during the Civil Rights Movement, there were a number of lunch counter sit-ins and demonstrations by young students across the South. Their activism moved civil rights leader Ella Baker to say that the movement was about more than a hamburger or even a giant-sized Coke. As the 50th anniversary of Roe versus Wade was on yesterday, January 22nd, there were many demonstrations marking the day. Likewise, as Mrs. Baker noted about the Civil Rights Movement, these demonstrations were bigger than Roe. The marches were about maintaining momentum for those of us who believe that the movement itself was about more than just Roe. It is about women who have the right to make choices about their health care decisions. With the unfortunate Supreme Court of the United States ruling in Dobbs, the fight for abortion rights has shifted to the states, and that is where we plan to do battle. As President Biden stated, a woman's right to choose is non-negotiable. Roe versus Wade was a constitutional right during my entire adult life. I will not allow the Supreme Court or anyone to be a barrier to me protecting reproductive rights of those who want access to a safe, legal abortion, birth control, or the protection of medical personnel who are abused or criminalized for doing their jobs. This is bigger than Roe. When abortion rights are under attack, we must stand up and fight back. not just for ourselves, but for our daughters, granddaughters, goddaughters, and nieces who have had this as their constitutional right their entire lives. Justice Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion in Dobbs expressed views that should concern us all. He stated that he would go further than just overturning Roe. The court should reconsider, this is what he said. He said the court should reconsider due process precedents in Griswold, Lawrence, and the Obergefell cases to correct those errors. In other words, the court should address protections for birth control, same-sex sexual relationships, and same-sex marriage. Madam President, I say to you, just as the civil rights movement was bigger than a hamburger, we find ourselves in a historical moment in time when women's rights are bigger than Roe. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Last year, I stood on this floor and promised that on the 49th and what we now know was the final anniversary of Roe v. Wade, I would never back down from the fight to protect safe, legal abortions here in Virginia. Since that promise, I've had many opportunities to keep my word, as many anti-abortion colleagues and the Governor Youngkins have pledged to restrict abortion access and introduced abortion bans. Let's take a moment to acknowledge the public health crisis we're in as a result of the Supreme Court's decision that gave states the green light to ban abortion. Bans have eliminated all or some abortion access in 18 states, plunging our nation into a public health crisis and causing irreversible harm to patients and their families in vast swaths of the country. Virginia has become a critical access point for essential, time-sensitive health care, not just for people in our Commonwealth, but for the entire region. I have not backed down. I have doubled down. And with the recommendation of the Senate Subcommittee on Health Professions to pass these anti-abortion bills by indefinitely, I am more committed than ever to ensuring these bans go exactly where they belong, out in the trash can. The harmful effect of abortion bans stretch beyond abortion care. It's now harder for people to get life-saving medical care for miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, and other pregnancy-related complications. Providers and medical staff in states with harsh consequences for people who perform or assist in abortions are afraid to treat patients, even in emergency situations. This puts the health and lives of pregnant people at risk, as providers are forced to delay urgently needed procedures until people are dangerously sick just to provide care that is life-saving. Pharmacists are even hesitant to dispense common forms of medication to treat cancer, arthritis, ulcers, for fear that they can also be used to end or interfere with pregnancies. We know that anti-abortion rights lawmakers won't stop at banning abortion. They're working towards a broader agenda to roll back our rights and freedoms, from access to affordable birth control to LGBTQ+ rights, voting rights, and even more. Our federal constitutional rights to abortion was stolen from us. But in Virginia, we can build a better, more equitable future. While this Roe anniversary marks the reminder of what we've lost, this is also a reminder that we must do more for the communities that we left out. I'll continue fighting with everything I've got to make sure everyone has access to the sexual and reproductive health care they need to control their bodies, their lives, and their futures. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Howell, the gentlelady from Northern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. I'm one of the few here on the floor who remember what it was like before Roe v. Wade. I've told you in the past the experience of 3 of my friends. One got pregnant while she was in college. She had a back alley abortion because that's all that there was in Ohio in those days. And she got a horrible infection and was never able to have children. Another, she was in high school, didn't know what to do when she got pregnant. She didn't have anywhere to go. She did the worst possible thing. She killed herself. And another friend of mine was a young man who got a girl pregnant. He barely knew her, but he felt he had to do the right thing, and they got married. It was not a happy marriage, and it was probably not really good for the child. But then I stress on some of my previous speeches that the real tragedy was that there was not enough use of contraception. There was not enough easy access to contraception. There was not enough knowledge about contraception. So I made a pitch on the floor way back in 1992 that we put more emphasis on this. And one of the strange and exciting things that happened after that was Senator Mark Earley, who was very pro-life and later became Attorney General, and who was sitting where Senator Hackworth is now, stood up and walked completely around the chamber to where I was sitting, which is where Senator Bell usually sits, and said, "I will work with you on more access to contraception." And he did. And I would once again put out the plea that this is truly the compromise for us, but under no circumstances should we cut back on access to abortions. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senior senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As we've heard from our previous speakers, yesterday we recognized the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, a decision that transformed the lives of hundreds of thousands of individuals and families. Roe made abortion legal, safe, and accessible. Yesterday, we had to observe this important anniversary as a solemn recognition of and as our own rededication to the heavy and critical work that is now in front of us. This past summer, Supreme Court's Dobbs decision upended medical and legal safety and accessibility as it disenfranchised thousands from essential medical health care. Healthcare decisions have been put in the hands of politicians rather than medical professionals. What should be the private healthcare conversations now require medical professionals and medical facilities to call on lawyers and judges rather than on their own expertise. We have, of course, heard many arguments against abortion access, and one argument in particular that I want to highlight seeks to compare the policies of the United States with policies of nations across the world. So it's true, on the issue of abortion access, we have numerous variations across the globe. Each country has its sovereign right to exercise and determine its own policies. But that's the most important point, isn't it? Each country defines its own policies. Developed nations do not leave it up to individual states or principalities or townships to decide this healthcare concern. These nations do not place such decisions in the laps of local or state politicians, allowing critical medical policy decisions to be under the sway of individuals, especially individuals who have little to no medical understanding, who speak on the behalf of a narrow ideology rather than on the behalf of those who are most effective. And so if we're going to compare our policies with those of other developed nations, we need to be clear that we need a well-articulated national policy in place that will provide safe and legal abortion. We had a constitutional and nationwide protection until the Dobbs decision opened up the Pandora's box, allowing each state to create a hodgepodge of laws that now put people at severe risk, that create legal uncertainty, that criminalize medical decisions. And so it is absolutely disingenuous to compare our current situation with the situation of other developed countries across the world. A majority of these nations also have universal health care. We do not. A majority of these nations also have what we would call extremely generous parental leave. We do not. A majority of these nations have subsidized child care. We do not. And a majority of these nations also provide responsible sex education and contraceptive care. Again, we do not. And so until we are ready to provide real and necessary parental leave, appropriate and high-quality child care, comprehensive sex education, and contraceptive care, let's not engage in false equivalencies with these other nations that are far ahead of us in addressing the needs around reproductive health care. Let's be clear, when we limit access to abortion in the haphazard, ill-advised, and short-sighted manner of Dobbs, we are harming thousands each year. It is a real healthcare crisis of our own making. We are putting lives at risk, and as Virginians, we now have the solemn responsibility to ensure that we protect individuals and families and preserve safe and legal abortion in the Commonwealth. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Boysko, gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We've heard from a lot of our colleagues, and I want to commend especially the senator from Chesterfield County for so eloquently explaining what the situation is. I could not say that better. So I'm not going to give you a speech. I'm going to tell you a little bit of personal information. I come from a religious family. My dad, an Episcopal priest. I've studied theology myself. I do not attest theologically that abortion is a sin. That is my belief. We are in a state where religious freedom was created, and the federal government has used Virginia as a model, as we all know in this room. When I had my second child, I've already told you this, many of you this story, you've heard it. 2 months before she was due, I got very, very ill. And I had a doctor looking me at the face and saying, it's either going to be for sure you're going to live or your baby. You have to choose. I would attest that there's only one person in this room who's ever had that happen to her, and she's sitting next to me just by coincidence. But you are not in the room with family, with the person who's pregnant, with the father and the little girl who's sitting next to you wondering what's wrong with mom. When you're making these votes, you're not sitting at the kitchen table with the minister and the girl who's 13 and is pregnant because she didn't really know what was how to manage a sexual relationship. You're not going to be at the kitchen table or at the bedside or over the nursery when the 15-year-old is trying to figure out how to finish her algebra homework, how to make sure that she's doing her community service, and figuring out how breastfeeding works. You're not going to be there. None of us are going to be there. Not one of us are going to be sitting by that person's side as they're struggling and trying to figure this out. All they're going to know, if some people get their choice, is that they didn't have a choice, that they didn't have an opportunity to make a decision. And I think that's wrong. I think we are making a grave error. And I know that some folks here think that a 15-week ban would be a great idea. But my flower girl in my wedding, her name is Mia. She is now 30, and she found out in the middle of her she married a lovely man named Chris. We were at the wedding. It was joyous, and she became pregnant. And then she learned that her pregnancy wasn't viable and that she was carrying a child that had a gross fetal anomaly. She lives in Washington State, and unfortunately for her, late abortions are not allowable. And she was forced, knowing that there was no chance for that fetus to survive, to take that baby to term and forced to give birth and then watch the baby die almost, within an hour. Again, we're not going to be at her side and Chris's side when we're making these votes. This is real stuff, people. And while I respect that some folks don't believe, because of their personal religious beliefs, that someone should have an abortion, that's their choice. That's their decision to make. But God, please, to force people and healthcare providers and moms and dads to take that decision away, I just can't abide by that. I've been marching for women's lives, for choice and making our own decisions since I was a college student in 1988. I was a board member of NARAL Pro-Choice Virginia before I was an elected official, and I've carried legislation expanding access to abortion for just about every year that I've been in office, and I will continue to do that. And Senator McClellan and I will be trying that again this year with a constitutional amendment that will enshrine the ability for individuals to make decisions for themselves. While it feels good to please your voters who may be further right than you are, don't do it. Be grown-ups here. We all talk about how we care about our voters and our individuals who live in Virginia. This is a time for some political courage to do the right thing for everybody. And I thank you for your time.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
I was not quite a month old when the Roe decision came out, being born in December of 1972. But the fundamental right to reproductive freedom, as outlined in Roe and its progeny, was something that I had always taken for granted and never really thought much about, other than philosophically, I believed that all healthcare decisions should be between patients and their providers. 13 years ago, this year, I made history on the other side of the hall. The senator from Fauquier beat me to it, being the first member of the General Assembly to be pregnant. And those of you, all of you, have probably known me well enough to know that when something interests me or affects me, I have to know everything there is to know about it. So when I found out I was pregnant, I had to know everything that could happen. And with the internet, I found a lot of bad things could happen. I was 38, and so it was considered a geriatric pregnancy, high risk because of my age. So I had more ultrasounds than younger women. And I remember when I first went to my doctor, we were debating the mandatory ultrasound bill. and we talked about it. And it hadn't made it to the floor yet, and I wasn't, we hadn't debated it yet on the floor. And I went to my ultrasound, which is transvaginal in the first trimester because she can't see anything abdominally. And I remember my ultrasound physician saying, he was very excited. He had a legislator who was a captive audience, literally. And he said, I often will get into discussions with my friends at cocktail parties who profess to be anti-abortion and talk about my patients. And you've heard me tell some of these stories. The patient who had a hole in her heart, couldn't get pregnant. She was on birth control. She got pregnant anyway. She had to make a tough decision. The patient pregnant with octuplets, and the chances of any surviving were low, but if she reduced the pregnancy to 2, odds were they'd survive. As he talked, I thought about my friend who a few weeks earlier in her 7th week of pregnancy suffered fetal demise and had to have a D&C. You've heard me talk about women who were basically told if and when we deliver and cut the umbilical cord, immediately your baby will suffocate because of the abnormalities. And most of these stories involve people who got devastating news at the first ultrasound in the first trimester, but they wanted a second opinion, or they wanted to wait to be sure. So they waited till the 20-week ultrasound or later to be absolutely sure. And I went back and we debated the ultrasound bill. And it wasn't public yet that I was pregnant because I was still in my first trimester, and I'm just superstitious enough. But my seatmate knew, and the speaker knew. And I stood up on the House floor and I told these stories. And I thought about my friend waiting to get her D&C. And I started to get angry. I said, are you telling me that she will have to get another ultrasound, be asked to look at it, be asked to listen to a heartbeat that both the provider and she knew weren't there? That was the bill we were debating. That was the bill we ultimately passed. That was the bill we ultimately repealed. Now, in 2015, I had a much more, my first pregnancy was theoretically high risk because of my age, but it was textbook. My second pregnancy was high risk because I had placenta previa. And 9 weeks before my due date, right after we had scheduled my C-section, my placenta burst, and I almost bled to death. And I remember being rushed to the hospital, and I remember hearing a doctor say, everything looks fine, and then immediately saying, we got to go to labor and delivery. And hearing my physician, the last words I heard saying, I'm here and I'm going to take care of it. And later, when I realized the severity of what had happened, and after Roe fell, and we started to see the bans take effect in other states, and we started to hear stories of physicians who hesitated, I said, in my case, I'm really glad that my doctor didn't have to think about if that delivery went wrong, could she be prosecuted? Because in other states, when things have gone wrong and someone has shown up, they'd have to ask, are you close enough to death that I can intervene without prosecution? Do I have to wait until you need a hysterectomy? Do I have to wait until you have sepsis? Or can I make the decision as the provider that my medical training and the standard of care tell me to make? So that's why this issue has been so personal to me. And I've been accused of some, you only tell the sad stories. That's right. Because those are the stories that are impacted by the laws that we pass. And a lot of those patients aren't here to tell them, or they're scared to tell them, or it's too painful for them to tell them. But somebody's got to tell them. Now, I'm still of childbearing years, but more likely than not, if I get pregnant, I'm going to die. So that's something probably for a couple years I've got to consider. But here's what really makes me mad. I'm the first generation of my family to lose a constitutional right in my lifetime. But I had the right to make those decisions in my childbearing years. My daughter, who I almost died giving birth to nearly 8 years ago, she might not. And that's why I tell those stories, and that's why I put the bills in, and that's why I say, I may be fighting the same fight that my mother fought before Roe, and my grandmother, but I'm sure not leaving that fight to my daughter. I will continue to fight for the reproductive freedom of every patient so that the decision can be made between that patient and their provider. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Morrissey, the junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I would preface my remarks by saying that I did not know that 7 of my colleagues were going to speak today. We don't coordinate it, not purposely or deliberately do we share each other's points beforehand, and we neither seek permission or affirmation from the other. But I would like to speak to the confluence of 2 issues that are on the minds of almost every one of the legislators these days. The first issue is the protection of life, also known as the protection of the right to life. And the second issue is the right to have and possess certain assault weapons, some people describe as weapons of mass destruction and weapons of war. Both of these bills are percolating through the General Assembly right now, and there is an intersection of these 2 issues. San Antonio Archbishop Garcia Silla noted recently about the increase in mass murders by shooting each year. He said in 2016 there were 302 mass shootings, and you all know a mass shooting is where 4 or more people are shot or killed. The next year, 417, the next year, 500, and then it grew to 642, 692. And it continues to grow each year. And then he contrasted these shootings with the number of mass shootings in the UK, 1. Number of mass shootings in Australia, 1. New Zealand, 1. Japan, 0. Norway, 0. And Canada, 0. And then Archbishop Garcia Hill said, the protection of life as follows. The Catholic Church consistently calls for the protection of life, and these mass shootings are a most pressing life issues of which all legislators, elected leaders must act. And then said the issue comes down to this. It is the protection of the right to life versus the right to have weapons of mass destruction. Different take. Cardinal Blaise Kupik stated it succinctly. The right to life trumps the right to have assault weapons. And the Second Amendment did not come down from Mount Sinai. The right to bear arms will never be more important than the right to life. Our children have rights too, and our elected leaders have a moral duty to protect these children. And there was another leader that spoke similarly. That was you, Madam President. You said at an annual gathering of the NRA this summer that America is in the battle for her children, and she is. But the problem is the easy access to these weapons of mass destruction. And when you look at the empirical evidence, you can see that that easy access is absolutely undeniable. You remember the shooting in Uvalde, Texas. 2 people spoke there. It was a clergyman from Brownville, Texas. He put things in proper perspective when he referred to the shooter who got that gun just before the Uvalde slaying. He said, quote, "Darkness descended upon this young man using a gun that was easier to obtain than an aspirin." And the easy access to those weapons is exactly the problem. And I think the empirical evidence that I alluded to earlier makes it unerringly clear, Madam President, members of this body, that we have to do something about these easy access. So with that said, Madam President, if you truly believe that America is in the battle for her children, and I do believe that, then I would ask you to join me and all Virginians this session when they ban the sale of those weapons of mass destruction, AR-15s and AK-47s. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes Senator Obenshain, the gentleman from Rockingham.
Madam Chair, Madam President, point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I likewise didn't know there was going to be a coordinated effort to address this issue. And let me just say, I have great respect for each and every one of my colleagues. I do not believe that any one of us has a monopoly on virtue. There is a deep divide in the United States over this highly emotional issue. I do want to tell a story as well about protecting the right to choose life. This morning, coincidentally, docketed in the Senate Judiciary Committee was a bill that has been designated as Caleb's Law. It arises from a horrible accident on June 1st of 2018. On June 1st of 2018, Taylor Shiflett was on her way home from work on Route 340 in eastern Rockingham County. Taylor was 6 months pregnant with her first baby. It was a healthy baby at 6 months. That baby weighed almost 3 pounds, and Taylor was loving the prospect of becoming a first-time mother. Unbeknownst to Taylor, at the same time, somebody was driving drunk, driving the opposite direction on Route 340 at 90 miles an hour and collided head-on with Taylor and killed her baby, ruptured the umbilical cord. The baby had to be delivered. The baby was dead. Taylor was deprived of the ability to be that baby's mother. Taylor believed that that baby was an innocent, that was innocent human life worthy of protection. Taylor wanted to protect her baby. We wanted to protect that baby. We had a bill before the Judiciary Committee that would have protected her choice and her ability to choose to protect that innocent human life. Yet we have become so divided that we can't even conceive of the possibility that we ought to protect a baby that somebody has chosen to bring into this world. And that we are going to say that it's just, drunk driving. Whatever. Taylor can't conceive again because one of the 19 operations that she has undergone since this crash was a hysterectomy. All of us matter or none of us matter. And I respect my colleagues. I respect their views. I don't think that my views or the views of Taylor or the views of many other folks who believe that innocent human life needs to be protected is trash. I hope that we will have robust debate, and I know that we will, and I know that this is an emotional issue, and I feel for the stories that my colleagues have told. I mean, they are heart-wrenching stories. And, like Senator Early, I think that we will try to solve some of these hard problems and hard issues. I don't think that any of us is so hard-hearted that we won't work together to try and ameliorate some of the hardships that have been described. But I just thought that in light of all of the stories that have been told, that Taylor's story and Caleb's story needed to be told as well, and that there are other choices that need to be protected. And there are a lot of people out there who used to believe that abortion ought to be safe, rare, and legal. A lot of my friends on the other side of the aisle. I mean, that used to be the mantra. And nowadays, anybody who tries to even suggest that we need to have a discussion or that we can encourage people to choose life, that somehow they're not entitled to express even that view. And I think that's a shame. I think that we as a people need to make sure that we are protecting the right to share thoughts, share ideas. We're seeing this ideological demand for ideological orthodoxy that I think is tearing this country apart. And I think we need to resist that. I think we're better than that. And I hope that we would go down a different path. So thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator Suderline, the gentleman from Roanoke County.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the senator from Rockingham County made several of the points that needed to be made today about the importance of protecting innocent human life, and that it is worthy of consideration, and that we ought not suggest that we're just going to put things in a trash bin. There's serious proposals that are brought by a lot of people, and I think there would be a lot of objection on this floor if the governor were to make similar comments about other people's proposals. And I don't think that's where we should go. I also want to briefly address, I don't think that we should address the president for personal political purposes. We all know that the president cannot speak from the dais, and I think that teeing off and saying what she ought to do was not something that we did to either of her predecessors or any of her predecessors that I can recall while I was here. So, Madam President, I know that you very much respect innocent human life. I'm sure you're going to make lots of comments on it, but I think that it was entirely inappropriate that the Lieutenant Governor be rhetorically drawn into debate when they know that she cannot be brought into it. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Hearing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Monday, January 23rd, the Committee on Commerce and Labor will meet 15 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Higher Education will meet 30 minutes after adjournment, Subcommittee Room 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Locke, Peterson, Cosgrove, Hashmi, and Pillion. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Health and Human Resources will meet at 4 p.m., Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Howell, Hanger, Vogel, Barker, Deeds, Eben, and McClellan. The Judiciary Subcommittee on Civil Law will meet at 4 p.m., Subcommittee Room 3, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Peterson, Lucas, Stewart, Obenshain, Saslaw, and Boysko. The Northern Virginia delegation will meet at 5 p.m., Senate Leadership Conference Room, 6th floor, Pocahontas. Tomorrow, Tuesday, January 25th, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Economic Development and Natural Resources will meet at 7:30 a.m., Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Marsden, Ruff, Howell, Saslaw, Hanger, and Barker. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on General Government will meet at 7:30 a.m., Subcommittee Room 2, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Peterson, Newman, Lucas, Vogel, Locke, and Eben. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 9 a.m., Committee Room B, Pocahontas. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1 in the Capitol, and the Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2 in the Capitol. Tomorrow, we will be taking the panoramic photograph. So I don't know what the caucuses are going to want to do, but you need to be here by 11:45 in the chamber with your desks cleared, wearing your most colorful outfits and ties, hair combed, shoes shined, just like the pages. So 11:45 in the chamber, the panoramic photograph, and that's all we have.
Senator Peterson, the gentleman from Fairfax City.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for two very brief announcements. One was
the senator has the floor.
I was supposed to announce that today was Virginia Farm Bureau Legislative Day, but you already knew that, so I'll skip right past that. Secondly, I've had a member request. I can't go in a time machine and start civil laws at 3 p.m., but let's start at 3:30 p.m. just so we could get it going. 3:30 p.m. for civil laws. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair calls on Senator Lucas, the gentlelady from Portsmouth.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon on tomorrow.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow? All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.